Let me tell you about my night last night, okay? And what it looks like to do alchemization on yourself. I took a microdose last night because I felt that there was a lot of things that were coming up from the surface that needed to be released. And then I watched some really emotional things on TV to kind of get everything flowing through for my own processes. And one of the things that I wouldn't say like upset about, but I was going through some grieving because I was talking to some people about their parents. Okay. And that I don't have parental figures in my life anymore because my grandparents raised me and they have thus passed on to the other side. And that can be really scary and intense, especially when you are a parent yourself, because it's like, who am I supposed to ask things to? I need an adultier adult. And I sometimes sometimes it's not that I feel alone because I have, all of these beautiful people in my life, but it's just different when you are a solo mom with a child, running a business, taking care of a household. There's a lot of things on my plate, and sometimes that gets very stressful, just all of the tasks. And I have gotten a lot better about asking for support in my life. But still, like, sometimes you're like, dang, I just wish that I had some parental figures to, like, talk to about things. And, sometimes in life you're going to have chosen family, which I do have, that I can lean on for support. And I really needed to grieve. There are layers sometimes that you're not really aware of until somebody says something or you're in a conversation. You're like, oh, I didn't realize that I was still upset about that. Okay. And that's where some other things started happening, where I was just having a conversation with my higher self. And let me tell you something, okay? So if you're in the drag realms, because I watched Drag Race last night, I was talking to my higher self and I was like, oh, you're kind of like my drag mom. Like my chosen mom. Because it's not like she's my mom, but she's like a surrogate mom, if that makes sense. And that really like shifted things for me, and seeing her through that lens. Because I'm fabulous, but she's like ultra fabulous. It's sending me all of these pieces of advice and insights to, upgrade every single area of my life. I love where I'm at now, but, anyway. So one of the things that I needed to do was allow all of the negative thoughts that I was having about myself and my reality to come up. And I was having a conversation with a client the other day. She had some underlying fears about herself and things that were going on in her life. And I could tell that she had, not some suppression, but just when things come up like that, it hurts. It hurts your soul. I said, what's the worst case scenario that's going to happen? And she was like, well, I don't think the worst case scenario is going to happen. I was like, that's not the point. When you have been in these very dark places in life, it is easy sometimes to get caught in loops of catastrophizing and negative what ifs and get stuck there. I did that for many years. And what I told her was, that's not you anymore. That's an old identity that you have outgrown. When we look at worst case scenarios, sometimes it's not to hyperfixate on them. It's to show them love. It's to show them compassion. It's to help them feel seen, heard, and validated, and thank them and honor them for keeping us safe. Say, I appreciate you, girlie. You know what? your opinions are valid. Okay? But now that I have a toolkit and I can implement all of these healing practices that I have been putting work into for all of these years, let me tell you what we're going to do if that happens. And that really can alleviate so much of the pressure cooker that you feel that you're in. I think sometimes in spirituality, it's high vibe this, high vibe that, think positive thoughts. We love that and facts. But if you have some underlying fears that are being suppressed and not properly moved through with your emotions, they're going to sit in there and they're going to ruminate in your subconscious, and it is going to make forward movement a little bit more difficult. Whereas if we took time, like I did last night, I was like, okay, you know what? We're going to get into it. I literally laid in my bed and cried for an hour, like holding my dog, like my emotional support dog, and just crying. And it's funny when you start really connecting with your higher self, because you have your higher self, but then you are also a higher self to your younger version. So it's kind of a council of higher selves here. So my higher self's encouraging me while I'm encouraging these older identities. And after I felt like I had like purged all of that stuff out, I felt 1 billion times better. And all of my inner children and past versions, younger versions, felt better too. I said, we are going to clear out all of this heaviness that we have been feeling by facing what is going on and transmuting and alchemizing it and choosing the new timeline. Okay? So it's not like you have to have one or the other. Both can occur. And that's where I have seen massive quantum leaps in my life, and being able to bring these really amazing manifestations in is allowing myself to feel what needs to be felt. But then at the same time, coming in as a higher self and saying, okay, now this is what we're going to do. and have a roadmap and a plan about, what to do next after all of that clearing. And something else that I worked through last night was central nervous system regulation. I cannot recommend enough. If you do not feel safe in the world, in here, because this is a reflection of this. So I had so many central nervous system reactions last night with those thought patterns coming up and the fears and the anxieties. I literally felt like I was going to have a heart attack at certain points. And that's a little bit of an exaggeration. But you know what I'm saying? Like when the fear and the panic are like really coming at you. And I just sat with it and I said, it's okay that we're feeling that. But I do want you to know we're safe. And I just allowed myself to work through it. Afterwards, all of that stuff coming up, all of the adrenaline and cortisol, and oh my God. I'm like, oh, wait a minute, I am safe. But you have to traverse through that in order to feel safety on the other side. Because if you take time to do that, when things occur in your waking 3D life, like as you're moving through everything, conversations with people, experiences, like the wonky things happen in your 3D, it's not going to be as big of a deal because you've already done a lot of that work. Intentional work, like sitting down to actually do it. Like that's me last night. I said, you know what? We're going to do some processing tonight intentionally. I'm not going to wait for this to blow up in my face. I am not going to wait until I have a wild reaction to something or someone. I'm going to sit down and create sacred space and honorment for me to work through the things that I need to work through, so I don't have to do that in an unopportune moment. And today I woke up feeling a lot more energized and motivated and positive and just optimistic about my life. And that began with me making time for me. So I want to share this today with you if this is some encouragement that you needed as well, and that we all going through this stuff. Okay. So I'd love to hear in the comments if this gave you some encouragement that you needed, or the next steps to take in your self-development journey. Remember to check out my activations, meditations, and coaching in my bio or the comments. Give a follow to join the community, and I'm wishing you an absolutely magical day, and I love you so much. You got this.